Welcome, friends, to another episode of Tavern Talks. I am your barkeep and host for the evening, and tonight we have another adventure to be told. Tonight, our friend Eric Wahlberg, otherwise known as Dad Jokes and Dragons over on TikTok, and Volric, the Gray over on Dress to Quest, has joined us this evening to tell a story. Now, before we start, of course, we give them a second or two to let them talk about themselves for a moment, and then we dive straight in. So, before we start our adventure, let's find out who we're talking with. Eric?
Hey, James. Hi, everybody. My name is Eric Wahlberg, and I'll kind of get to the meat of it. Longtime hobbyist to D&D for decades, and currently I'm playing on a ongoing campaign on Gen Con TV. It's called Dress to Quest, and we've been lucky enough to star Mr. James Jackson here on our show for a number of episodes and had a lot of fun. That's on Mondays at 6 p.m. And then we have another bit that we're talking about, which is the TikTok channel. It's called Dad Jokes and Dragons. You can essentially think of it as what it sounds like. It is dad jokes for people that are into fantasy stuff, Dungeons and Dragons, Lord of the Rings. There are some jokes that are very specific, and so you will appreciate them if you're a D&D fan. Some of them are a little bit easier to understand if you've only ever seen Game of Thrones a couple times. So that channel is what it sounds like. It's at Dad Jokes and Dragons. I definitely would want to point you to the TikTok, because that is where we have the most content. We have some stuff on Instagram and Facebook and all that, but TikTok is where you get the bulk of the activity, and that's where I'm putting my efforts at the moment. And that's it, sir.
Awesome. I was trying to grab it real fast, and it doesn't seem I don't have the link at the moment, but our tech will make sure that gets up in the chat as we start our adventure. So, for people new here, and it seems like we have a ton tonight, which I'm super excited about, is this works in a very strange way. The way this works is before we even meet our character, we're going to find out where our character is from, because the interesting part about the tavern is it's in every realm. There's nowhere else it can go everywhere and anywhere at any time. The only requirement is that there has to be a story that needs to be told. So, I don't know if Eric read all of the prompt, and if he didn't, it's fine, because he's been a DM for a long time and he can do this on the fly. So I don't expect anything else. Where are we starting at, Eric? I don't want you to mention anything about a character. Where are we at?
So I think we need to be in Saltmarsh.
Okay.
Probably the northernmost area.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't know the city, because I know the cities that are more south of that, which is where kind of the activity is for my character in the campaign at the moment.
Okay.
He would be on his way towards Thornhold, and whatever town or city. This could be a small town, as long as it has a tavern, has some warm food, which is what Volric is looking for at the moment.
Oh, you don't understand what this is all about. You'll be there soon. It's okay, I promise. All right. So, in this town that you're heading towards, are you riding by caravan? Are you going by carpet? How are we getting there?
Yeah. So
Horseback?
he would have just rolled in either from a ship or possibly a smaller boat.
Okay.
Also, because he has actually been in the ocean recently,
okay,
and he has, luckily for him, he needs it. He has a manta ray cloak, and so he may have just come right up onto the shore and pulled back the manta ray cloak and resumed his more pedestrian ways.
All right. So, for people who have never watched the show, the way this works is that we need to find a doorway. I don't know where the doorway is at yet. We haven't hit that point of the story yet. We'll find it. Once the doorway is opened, then we find out how he gets to the tavern, and it's great. It's a lot of fun. So as you're heading to Thornhold, you're washed up off the water. You can hear the crashing waves. You walk yourself off in towards this small town. You look around and it's very small. We're talking 5-6 buildings max. Doesn't even have a name that you can find off the tip, and you're unsure what building goes where, who it is. The amount of sounds are very quiet. It doesn't seem to be a very active village. But what you do sense is that it's probably a small fishing village.
Okay.
So where are we heading first?
Well, so if there's only a handful of buildings, the first thing I do is look for one that has some smoke coming out of it that looks like it might be a tavern or an inn.
Okay. You notice a small wooden building just right off the horizon onto a small hill, and you head up to there. You can see the outsides are taken care of, but run down. A small window can be looked through very easily, and there might be 3 or 4 seats in there. It looks like a small home, but as you kind of glance around, you see that most of these are homes. You don't really think there's maybe a tavern even here. Maybe a general store if you're lucky.
Okay. I'll go ahead and approach that house. Do I see any people?
Not at the moment.
Okay. Then I'll pause and kind of scan left and right and see if I see anybody walking around or doing work or whatever activities I might be doing at this time.
In the area? No.
Then I'm going to grasp the hilt of my sword as I walk closer now, starting to investigate, looking for clues, wondering where everybody is at the moment, if I think they should be working, because it's not the middle of the night, correct?
Correct. It's not. It's early day now, where you're coming off at. So
okay. So I'll look out. Is it perhaps they're all out fishing?
You do see some fishing boats off in the distance, but it's very, very strange that the entirety of the village or this hovel of homes is just empty. Though even the amount of smoke that's coming out of these homes is very little.
Okay. All right. Well, time to do the old-fashioned. Hello? Anybody here?
Wait a second. Wait another moment. Quiet.
All right. I have some coin in my purse, so I don't mind snatching some potatoes out of somebody's pot and leave some coin. So I'm going to walk up to the one house you said there was some smoke coming out and try to open the door.
Okay. You open up the door. You see 2 rooms max, just a living space and then a kitchen in the back, a small set of stairs that go up. It is 2-story, but it looks like it's one of those like half stories, so it's like squat house at the top. Yeah, you walk in, the floor looks like it's been lived in. It doesn't seem to just be covered in dust and like there's nobody ever's here. And you can smell immediately a stew boiling in the back.
It's my friend Stu. Stu, you there?
Bubble,
I smell
bubble.
you. All right. I'll start walking in.
Okay. You walk in. You step into the kitchen area. You can see the cauldron of the stew boiling. A small storage room to the side.
Okay.
Just gonna make yourself home and grab a bowl of stew.
Yeah, he's a little bit worried, but he figures it's only 5 buildings. There might be an explanation. They're all somewhere together at the moment. And I'm gonna take my sword off my belt and lean it up against the kitchen counter, and I'm going to grab a bowl and feed myself some stew and see if they have something to drink. And I'll sit down and kind of keep my ears peeled for any sounds, but otherwise I'm going to eat and drink.
All right. So easy enough to find a bowl for the stew, but you notice that you don't seem to see any drink whatsoever. Are you going to check the storage closet?
Yeah, let's go ahead and I'll take a couple bites of the stew. I assume it's pretty good.
Take a bite of the stew.
Mm-hmm.
You open the door to the storage closet. You step through, and something happens. You're not standing in a storage closet. You're standing in a very warm, quaint room, surrounded by what seems to be lanterns that just float on their own. 4 sets of tables sit in the parameter of your area, and a large oak bar in the back. Immediately, you glance at something on the front or at the back wall that states, "Welcome to the Mythweaver's Respite. Everything costs a tale. Everything is charged by a story."
I turn back. Can I see a doorway that leads back into the previous room?
You see a door shut.
Door shut. Kind of cock my ear towards the room, see if I hear or see anything, as I reach back and see if I can open that door or not.
As you open the door, you hear a thud in the back room. "Oi, 1 minute, I'll be there. We have patrons."
You do a terrible job advertising this place. I left my sword back there.
"Oh, it'll be all right." And as you hear that, you see an overly large dwarven fellow that comes out from behind swaying doors. He's very simple clothed. His beard sits about to the middle of his chest, and he has this what looks like a worn rag that's just kind of thrown over a shoulder. "Oh, I didn't know we had somebody today. I figured this was my day off. Anyway, welcome. It seems that you have a tale to tell."
Well, you can't be this old wearing this kind of clothing and not have some kind of story.
"Well, then take a seat. Have a drink. And let's hear why the tavern has brought you here tonight."
It sounds like you have some stories to tell me as well. Like,
maybe.
Where the hell am I?
Well, my friend, you're in the Tavern of Tales, a place where people come when they have a tale that needs to be told and needs to be stored for eternity.
All right.
I noticed you've got some markings on you. You've got some battle to you. So you've got to have something.
Oh yes, I have plenty of stories, but can I have a drink first?
Of course. And he walks around the bar. He grabs what seems to be a very small keg, places it up on the bar, pulls 2 glasses out, pours them. They fill them to the top, to the brim. He slides one over to you. He says, "Okay, at this point, we start our tale. What brings you to my establishment?"
Well, how far do you want to go back?
Seems you probably have quite a bit.
So you have interest in this scar. How about I get to that part?
That one would be interesting.
Well,
It might be worth a second drink.
first, I should introduce myself then. I'm Volric the Grey. I'm a rune knight, and I'm a College of Swords bard. Call me a bit of a battle poet.
A battle poet. All right. I don't think we've had one of those in here for a long time. Battle poet.
Yeah. Sometimes to inspire my allies, sometimes myself. Sometimes just for fun. So...
Well, Mr. Battle Poet, tell me a tale that will crinkle my toes and make my hair stand up from my neck.
So, some 15 years ago, still not a particularly young man, but not as old as I am now, I was captain of a ship in Saltmarsh. And amongst other things, I would combat the pirates in the area. And the ship that I drove, that I had, was the Tamara, and had quite success. In fact, I became quite fond of the place, the town of Saltmarsh in particular, and some of their elders. About that time, there was an uptick in not only pirates but also slavers. We had great success against them, I'd say, until there was a mutiny. There was a man whose name is no longer in my notes, but I will find them. So give me a moment.
Sure.
So
I remember sometimes you could hit on the head a little bit too hard and you forget things for a moment.
There was my first mate, Sergal. He had many times attempted to convince me to join the pirates. He said that's where things were headed. That's where the profit was to be made. And why bother being undercut and putting ourselves at risk?
You know, I'm just going to stop you there. Sergal, really? You didn't think that this squirrely man was going to get you in trouble?
It does sound like almost like some kind of creepy little monster from a children's tale, doesn't he?
It really does.
Yeah. Hindsight, huh?
I've had small people come in here and talk about somebody very similar at one point.
So, Sergal, he was able to gather a group behind my back. You know, that one word that you don't want to hear when you're a ship's captain. It was mutiny. And he was successful. Long story short, killed a good number of my men that tried to help me fight back. Threw one of my chefs and perhaps best friend overboard. And then mutilated me with a magic knife, which is what you see here.
That's what you got right here, huh?
Yeah. Even with all the healing that I've had over the years, that scar remains. That's a reminder. Now, Sergal is supposedly dead. I'm jumping a bit ahead because after I was captured by Sergal, he sold me to slavery. For 10 years, I find myself in a position where I was forced to fight and kill.
Oh, I've been there.
Yeah, well, I learned how to fight even better. I learned how to fight without weapons, in fact. I learned how to fight with anything. I lost myself, found myself. At the end of the day, I led a revolt. And after that 10-year stint that I mentioned, got out. But I've already surpassed the bit about the scar. It's a bit about the middle of my life, I would say, that story with the scar. But Sergal and his ship was supposedly sunk while I was enslaved, so no revenge to be had. But they never did find the body. If he does pop up again, he will face my wrath.
You know, I can promise you this, and I don't normally do this, but if I ever get somebody that comes into this place, and I remember that name, and I have a lot of people that come here, so it's not always very common for me to remember names, I might take his head off for you. I won't be able to tell you, but I'd at least help you.
That's a full service barkeep there. I appreciate that.
He points over his shoulder, and you see three things. You didn't notice these at first. They seem to sit on the wall very relaxed for the moment. But you see a very large battle axe, dwarven battle axe. You see the head of an adult red dragon, and you see a helmet that sits on a little pedestal above the two. That looks like, the best way to describe this is it's like a half helmet version of Hermes helmets. So it's got the wings on both sides, kind of the beak, and then it comes down halfway. But those all three sit on his wall as reminders of his tales that he's had to tell before.
So, my question, I don't have your name, do I?
You know, there's not many people who have ever heard my name. And in all honesty, the amount of years I've been doing this, I barely remember it myself. This noggin's been hit way too many times to remember it. You can just call me the barkeep or the innkeeper.
Is that Mr. the Barkeep or just Barkeep?
Just Barkeep.
All right. As you wish. So, Barkeep, you retired?
I am. Not of my own choice, but a long-lost friend of mine asked me, after we had lost one of ours in one of the worst ways possible. He asked me if I would tell tales of my own, and when I ran out, he built this place for me. I always wanted to have my own inn. I just never knew my inn was going to be like this.
And what is this exactly?
This is an inn of tales, an inn of stories.
But is this some kind of pocket dimension, or?
It's very hard to explain, and in all honesty, for somebody like myself, I don't understand it. Wizard, Khaled, was his name, entrusted this to me. And in turn, I guess I'm part of it now.
Can you leave?
You know, I've never tried.
Why not?
My enjoyment and my contentment is here. I make sure that people that come in here have a tale to tell, help them where I can, and send them back on their way, hopefully a little better than they were before. It's been a calm and gentle life. Much better than killing dragons and risking my hide for what seems to be just coin at this point.
So, your life as a warrior, you did that out of duty, out of necessity? See, I, for one, I love the fight.
I enjoyed it for many years. Found a companionship with my party, my group. And then time started pulling everyone apart. Friends started getting old of the fight. They started to see a better lifestyle that wasn't always about risking your lives. Others started a family. Khaled went off into his studies for who knows how long at this point. Ability to become immortal comes with a tost.
Immortal?
Yes, he was hunting for two things. A hand and an eye of somebody. Can't remember the name of it.
Wow. But how long have you been here then?
Hard to tell. I mean, it's... And he starts to point at the bricks that have written stories on them. I don't know, probably 7,000 stories ago, I was given this place.
What? That's a long time even for a dwarf.
I don't know if that's what I'm called anymore. It's just what I was.
Hmm.
Now I have only one name, which is, well, two, I guess. Barkeep and Keeper.
Well, I'm beginning to think this is not a walk-in closet that they tossed a few tables in and popped a dwarf in there with some ale. This place is strange indeed. One of the stranger places I've been, and I've been dead twice.
Interesting. I was killed once. I decided I wanted to become a paladin for some weird reason. I didn't last long. Picked back up my battle axe, and the person that killed me the first time, I took his head off the second time.
That's the way to do it.
But after you see that the other side, you start to really wonder if it's worth it.
Yeah. You know, when I came back the first time, there was a reason. See, my son, Sergey, he had died 12 years old. He had died unfulfilled in his dreams. Yet, in his death, he was able to cultivate skills that he had in life. And he brought those skills to me in this kind of nether realm that I was before I was pulled back. It's where I learned this. See these runes?
I do.
As well as on my scabbard here. I don't have my scabbard because I left my sword in the camera, so I'm not going to pull it up. But yeah, so there was a bit of a purpose. I came back empowered, knowing and understanding runes, using those to continue my adventures, to continue to both have a good time, but also do some good in the world. Then I died again. And then I think, as you said, you start to have different perspectives.
You do.
But I figure I'm back here for a reason. And I'm going to keep moving until I don't move anymore. I figure I have more things to do.
But when you get to there, and you think back, just remember that one day you sat in an inn in the middle of nowhere. You talked to a crazy dwarf who told you, one day you will settle down. And you'll put the sword away. And you'll find something else to live for.
I would agree with you. I've had a life that's a bit backwards in that way. I was fairly peaceful, a shipman. As a young man and in my 20s, fishing village. We were carvers as well. Rune carvers, but not the magical kind. Lived that for some time until I kind of found the joys of adventure and my skills in battle.
It always bites you first. I'll tell you that.
I'll tell you this, if I could go back to that, when I would come home off the boat, see my Sergey running out to me, my lovely wife, those were good times. But you see, Sergey's gone. My wife is no longer my wife because of that. And so I'm happy enough to do good and enjoy the excitement of new places, new challenges. Nothing makes you feel more alive than being on the edge of death,
Until you, like you said, until you find just that little extra edge, it becomes a little bit worse. Now, I will say though, it's been many years or many stories, I guess, since I've heard one that kind of connects in a deeper level to myself. That itch for adventure, itch to see something new.
Yes. And it's many things to many people, I suppose. Some people just seek the riches, the fame. There's a lot of things to be had out of it. And you mentioned earlier as well, family. Not having a family anymore. I've made new families, my adventuring companions. They've come and gone, but the bonds are still there. The memories are still there. And that's where I'm headed right now, or at least if I can ever find an exit to this place.
Exit the same way you came. For some reason, this strange place has a way of making people relive some of those stories and in turn process them differently. Some weird thought that Khaled had about telling stories that lasted forever.
So, barkeep, you ever thought that perhaps this isn't what you want? That perhaps you're under some kind of spell? I mean, I look at that beautiful axe, that helm. I can see your hands are rough. You've seen plenty of battle. And you're as calm as a philosopher. Those things usually don't happen so quickly.
As I said, they didn't happen quickly. Took years. Khaled asked me if I wanted to do this. For a long time, I had a good friend, Arcturus, a halfling, a co-worker. He decided that we would start a flying tavern called the Tinderbox. For some reason, he always had bigger plans. He wanted things to work on their own. It made no sense. And he started creating things. And then he started to go a little squirrely. And Khaled looked at me and he told me, "Your friend's unraveling. There's nothing any of us can do about it." And he asked me if I wanted to help. But I couldn't come to taking my friend's life. He started creating machines out of souls, draining people of their own lives in order to run these machinations that would build, and almost like slaves.
That's a particularly vile thing to do.
It was. And the rest of my group took an oath to take him down. But they knew that we had such a strong bond as friends. And this is when Khaled gave me this place. He told me, he goes, the stories that we did and the stories that others will do need to be kept somewhere to learn from. And I told him I would take on the ownership. So I did.
And so, how often do you have visitors then? I mean, it's
when a visitor needs to tell a story, they kind of just show up. And otherwise, I go about my day. And it's strange. I've never really been in a place where food is plentiful, drink is plentiful. And patrons, surprisingly, are plentiful. Though, lately, things have been a little off. Somebody came through here a couple weeks ago, or a couple stories ago, and told me that, and left something with me. Something that could, he told me needed to be kept safe. And then the next group of stories came as a group. It's never happened before. It's like the Tavern's unraveling. And I don't know why.
So, is not perhaps not some kind of everlasting place of immortality. Then you sense things are changing.
I sense there's something different. I don't know what it is yet. People leave things here to protect them or to secure them, or because they believe that they can find a way back. I don't know if it's the case. But I do know that for some reason, the tavern is calling people that enjoy adventure. They enjoy the fight. And I don't know if it's something that's going to come up in the near future or not. But I have a strange sense that Khaled will be returning. And when he does, he's going to come with a request. And I'm going to need help.
Well, this better happen soon because I do have some friends I need to meet up with. But from the story you've told me, if there's something I can do, I will.
I appreciate that. And as a fellow adventurer and father and friend, I don't think I'll have the choice. This tavern has a mind of its own, and it's been that way since I've taken it over. But your story is in the walls now. And he points to the corner, and where your tale was written in almost like calligraphy, ingrained into the stone already.
Ah, I see. There's the part where I forgot the name of the man who cut my face and committed mutiny.
Seems that your story was one to be told that needs to continue to be told.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's over.
But I'm curious because some of these things, some of these tales are shifting. The stories are blending and winding together. And I think when that happens, I might need some help.
It sounds to me like there may be more things happening, as you said. A gathering of heroes of a sort.
Maybe. Hopefully.
Well, everything I sense about you is you're the right sort.
Only time will tell.
These others that came through with their stories.
Oh,
They have
some are.
They have moralities about them, or they're all types. There's not.
I've had strange stories. I had a lizard folk come in a few weeks ago, a few stories ago, I guess, and he was a strange one. He really was. In all honesty, I wouldn't say he was a good person at all, but he told a good story. I had a little goblin fellow pop in. Sounds very similar to yours, coming off of the water. I had a demon show up a couple stories ago. Maybe more than a couple. It's hard to tell anymore.
You mean tiefling or?
No, much deeper. It was trying to find a way to the material realm to take it over. And instead he plopped right here. It's great. And for a moment there, I got to see his humanity.
Well, this piques my interest. Have you heard of the god Dune?
I've heard of many divine in many areas, but that name does not ring a bell.
So
could be called something else.
would not be surprised if he has more names. But amongst the other things I'm trying to do, trying to thwart the plan of this demon-like god who wants to turn our plane, or at least the one outside of this place, into a likeness of his own demonic realm. And his name is Tharizdun. I mean, you mentioned a demon that came through. Just piqued my curiosity is all. But I would expect it would not be him.
This person was much different, I think. I don't believe he chose to be a demon. I believe that he was forced. As I said, he showed glimpses of humanity for a moment.
Yeah, definitely not the one.
Well, it seems you have friends that you need to get to. And you've told a story that the tavern has deemed safe to hold on to.
Well, if you'd like to give it a title, you could say, How Volric Got His Boo-Boo. How's that?
Good laugh. Need one of those every once in a while.
Well, that's unfortunate you're not willing to grab that axe and come out with me, because we could use help.
Maybe one day. One day I'll pick that axe back up.
All right, well, I know where this village is. Maybe I'll come looking for you.
I'm sure, I hate to say this, my friend. We've had good talks, but it's not how it works. Just think, the next time you need to tell a big tale, maybe I'll show up.
Well, at the very least, I'll say it's been an interesting experience.
It has.
It's unfortunate I couldn't at least know your name, but Bar keeps things fitting.
I'll try to remember it the next time you come through. I'm going to have to go through some parchments that I've kept hidden for many years.
Very well. Well, how much do I owe you?
Nothing. You told your story. As I said, this place is a tavern of tales. Everything costs a story.
I gotta try that the next tavern I go to.
I wouldn't do that if I were you. However, you did say you were a battle poet. Maybe it'll work.
Yeah, maybe so. That'd be worth a laugh.
But let me leave you with this. And he pulls a small bottle out. Thin, green, corked bottle. Pours 2 glasses. This is something I was given by a very old friend of mine who lived deep within the Feywild. It's hard to explain it or say it in their tongue, but it pretty much reads, the drink that helps you forget. And the only way I can translate that is that it calms your forgetfulness rather than forgetting itself. You'll feel a little bit more at peace.
Could use that.
And he pours 2 glasses, and he looks at you and he says, I want you to remember your family, the one you put behind you, and hopefully this will bring you a little more peace on your next journey.
They're never not on my mind, but some peace would be nice.
As you take the shot, what were the people's names again? Your wife and
Sergey and Brunhilde.
Okay. So out of the glimpse of your eye, just as you're about to take it, almost like silver writing slides through the water with their 2 names on it as you pop it back. And a sense of peace kind of warms over your body. Till we see each other again, my friend.
Indeed.
And he waves his arm towards the door, turns around and starts to clean up the glasses, grabs his towel over his shoulder, and starts wiping out one of the cups. Gives you a nod and lets you choose your decision.
Okay. Well, next time I'll show you my fancy sword. But for now, I'm going to go get it.
And
thanks for the interesting time, dwarf.
As you walk out the door, shut the door behind you, you're standing in the kitchen again, staring at your sword. An old lady is standing about 2 feet away from you that lives off this horrible shriek, knowing that there's somebody in the room. The stew is somewhat cold. And as the door closes behind, our scene ends, and the tavern is closed for the evening. And that's where our adventure ends for the night.
Awesome.
All right.
That was great. Very fun.
At this point, and we've only got about 15, 20 minutes left.
Mm-hmm.
If you have questions about Volric, you have questions about D&D, you have questions about dad jokes and dragons, start tossing those in the channel, because that's when we start answering those questions. And this is where I kind of let Eric have his fun and get to tell us a little bit more about what he's working on. So I know you have a ton of stuff in the mix. And maybe instead of us talking exactly what you're doing, how did you put all this together?
You're speaking of the TikTok channel, correct?
I'm speaking of, what got you into Dungeons and Dragons, into being the forever DM, which then, of course, would roll into those things.
Yeah. So I was 10 years old, and I had a very nerdy friend named Kenny McClellan. And he said, "Hey, I want to play this new game with you that I have." And I was like, cool. I believe that earlier that year, I may have seen The Hobbit, the animated Rankin and Bass, I believe, was the creators of that cartoon. Anyway, so I knew a little bit about elves and dwarves and whatnot in a kind of a fantasy setting. And then he said, "Yeah, this game Dungeons and Dragons is basically that." And he had these miniatures, and none of them were painted. They're just right out of the box.
Right.
But I hadn't seen ones that were that small and that kind of material. And he had some orcs, and he handed me an elf archer, and he said, "This is you." And he said, "There's the orcs," and he said, "Here, take this dice and roll to hit." Now, Kenny also barely knew how to play it, and in his defense, this is before a lot of the books came out.
Okay.
If you know the history of the books, was the first was Monster Manual, then the Player's Handbook came out, then the Dungeon Master's Guide came out, like over a period of a few years.
Yeah.
And so a lot of it was kind of piecemeal based on whatever books you might have. And so he had me roll dice. I rolled a 20-sided dice. I rolled some number. And he said, "Okay, you hit. Roll this dice." And I rolled probably a D6 for my bow. And he said, "You killed the orc." And he knocked the orc over. And as soon as he did that, I was like, "Oh, this is so cool." Like just the concept,
Yep.
Right? That I was that guy and I rolled these dice and I just knocked that guy down. It was like, playing through action figures, but with rules, right? That's
right.
And so from that point on, I was definitely interested, and I, started collecting some of the materials myself. And then my other friend, my best friend at the time named Randy, he's got into it. And, from there we grew into collecting more books, understand the rules more, playing through all those classic modules from, the Giant series to Village of Hamlet to, all that good stuff. And then, I think only a handful of years when maybe I had moved or some friends moved away, did I stop playing. But for the most part, I've been playing now for over 40 years.
Wow.
And like you said about being a forever DM, that was the way I could always find that I would be able to play. Is if you DM, you can always play. And
True.
so I would always run games, and that was fun too. Anyway, because I liked that flexing that creative muscle, which as a DM as well, and that led to the pandemic, where didn't really have the opportunity to play like I used to, and found an opportunity to play online with our friend Tony Sloan, who has botchery, and played with him for about 2 years, and that led into the cosplay because we're doing a show, and I said, hey, I should do something to kind of have a bigger presentation for the viewers to really entertain them. And so I started getting more into cosplay. Like a lot of people, I would dress up, for Halloween, but never cosplay. And so, this character, all this good stuff was, over a year kind of in the making of kind of forging both the character personality and the outfit and all that. And that kind of led to other opportunities of, as playing with people like Luke Gygax, Stefan Pokorny, and quite a few charity events and whatnot, which is an absolute blast, of course. And then meeting people like you, the second time, I've been on the show with you, and then playing with you and a lot of other cool folks. And that, as a side, led me to the TikTok channel, which I suppose I can give a little bit of info on that, which is I was watching, I don't know if it's Facebook or whatnot, it was Logan Lyle was the name of the channel. Essentially, these guys sitting in the mountains, drinking coffee, telling dad jokes back and forth.
Oh, Doc Talks.
So maybe that's known as Doc Talks. Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah, that's Doc Talks. Yeah, that makes sense. He's great.
Yeah. So when I saw that, I was like, well, this is great. Like, because not too many people really collated all these cool dad jokes and put them in one place where you can just kind of digest them daily in small doses. And from what I knew about TikTok, I was like, I'm sure, and I had not been at TikTok at that point. I said, I'm sure there's somebody that is doing dad jokes out there, if not several. But is there someone who's really going all in on Dungeons and Dragons dad jokes? And I envisioned, based on what I saw, hey, what if I did cosplay with my daughter? And Erica, you haven't met her yet, but she plays Rin, who's the elf archer, both in the campaign and on the TikTok channel. We could record them, a whole bunch of them in one weekend. I would just have to write them over a period of a couple months. And admittedly, 85% of these are existing jokes that I've just massaged into something different, right?
And it works, right? I mean, you found the niche that you're enjoying and having a good time with. And it's funny because that's kind of where the results of what we're doing now on Tavern Talks kind of grew from. For people who have been watching this for years now, because we've been doing this almost 3 years, we've kind of grown from it. It was just me and another friend of mine who said, hey, let's just sit down and talk D&D. And then we got the crazy idea, let's bring guests on and talk about D&D. And we pick a specific topic and let them tell. And then we all kind of bounce ideas off of each other. And then, I really came up with the idea and started bouncing the ideas off with some friends of mine. I said, you know what? There's something that we're missing. And if I know anybody that's decent with social media, and I might just see if your daughter's interested, if we could just clip some of this stuff and throw it on TikTok, I think we'd be fine, truthfully. But where is
I would say yes. If
where can you get a time for people who always are DMing, who are always telling stories on a large scale, to allow them to come in and tell a very simple but deep story of the character that they love and adore? And that's where the build of the character of this came from. And you're kind of about to see the finale of that here in the next couple months, hopefully. Is we've now had requests of guests, because in all honesty, we love having our audience, but all of our feedback comes from our guests, and they're always like, hey, I want to come back. I want to come back. I want to come back. I'm like, okay, cool. So we've been talking about this for a while, is there are going to start becoming tavern adventures, and that's where we're going to ask 4 or 5 of our guests to come back, and we're going to actually run a game, and the tavern keeper is going to run the game. So that, and of course you played perfectly into that tonight, because this is just once again another chance for DMs to put all their heads together and go, hey, how do we tell a great story?
It's great. I mean, it's there's a lot of really wonderful things you just mentioned. What the one thing that stands out is that that I think about how you really set it up by alluding to the fact that something's going on here, not just people coming in, that there's some kind of other purpose and things are happening, and that a lot of people that you've met for the most part seem to be kind of worthy sorts. And so then it's just like, it's like you're gathering an adventuring crew unknowingly, or finding the ones that are the most fitting, whatever your stories you're going to tell, right?
And it's weird because that's something.
Let me finish complimenting you. Which is that you've set it up for the viewers. I think what's great is for people who, how long have you been doing this particular format?
Since October.
Right? Okay. Oh, October. Okay.
Yeah.
So geez, what, 10 months now, or?
Yeah. Has it been? Eric,
not
Tech Man, how long have we been doing this for? 10 months already?
It would be 8 months. It'd be 8. It'd be 8 if it's July, right?
I have to look.
But that's still a long time.
Okay.
So nonetheless, for those that have been watching this, it's cool because you think about how many times, you see things that are not games, and you say, oh, it'd be cool if this was an adventure. It'd be cool if these guys were actually going to do this thing together, right? And so, I think it's great, especially because, I certainly would be excited to come back in that there's this follow-up to this whole thing that happened. Right? Like now getting to actually probably adventure alongside this dwarf character, and then whoever else has come on the show, right? It's literally like Infinity War, where you have like the Guardians who've never met the Avengers, right? There's a lot of really cool stuff there. So I think that's really smart, and it's kind of cool, like how you never know these things are going to go. But the fact is, if there had not been the pandemic, I would not have the suit of armor. I would not be talking to you now. Like a lot of things, and I would trade all those things to to not have had the pandemic, obviously. But it's just really interesting how things evolve into other things, and that's why. And I'm also here partially because of the Dad Jokes and Dragons, because I have a new kind of thing to talk about with you, which is that. So it's cool, and the hobby is great in so many ways, and it's cool because it's something that a lot of things are polarizing in the world, and if you like Dungeons and Dragons and have a moderately similar mindset, you're going to get along great, and you just make lots of friends, and you build memories and do some really cool stuff together. And it's nice to have those places where you can kind of gather and enjoy, which is another reason that I have that channel too, is because it's a super safe, fun, happy place. People don't grumble. People don't, say, well, there's the issue I have with the rules, or these type of players, or whatever things they're talking about that are, around D&D, they're not as fun to talk about. But that's why this is like, hey, enjoy D&D. I love it too. Here's some things that relate to D&D. Come enjoy that and go back and do whatever you're doing.
Right. No, I think, like I said, I think what you're doing, especially with the Dad Jokes and Dragons, is great. I really have enjoyed, watching Dress the Quest slowly grow, which has been awesome. Gen Con TV giving you that opportunity is, that's once in a lifetime thing. Normally we build from the ground up. Having that support is awesome, is incredible.
And if I could talk about Peter Atkinson too, who he has a big stake in Gen Con proper. All right, he was the former head of WotC back in the day as well, right? Back when they acquired TSR and whatnot. But he is one of the sweetest, most supportive guys ever, and it's mostly because I gamed with him first, and then I knew him through Stefan Pokorny and whatnot, and and yeah, I had some stuff to sell him. Like Tony had put on a really great show with Nerd Botchery, and so I sent him a clip. Said, "Here's our show. You've already played with me. I would love to take us and put it on your." And we just happened to have the library, and I'm not letting go of it, at least for now, because it is, like you said, it's a great opportunity, and to have that built-in audience, and then be able to do things like bring you on. Like when I met you, it's like, oh, James is such a cool guy, and I want to support him, and he's someone that we'd want to have on our show, and that's when we had you as Brax there for, and again, I think it was about 5 episodes when it was intended, I think, to be 2.
Yeah, I did.
Cool. That was great. Like, wow. And from a tactical standpoint, we needed the help, as you know.
Yeah, no, yeah, you guys kind of lost most of your heavy hitters.
Yeah, that was intense, but it was great to have the role playing with you and the gameplay with you, and so it's cool. And we have Nathan, of course, who's been phenomenal DM for this 2nd season since Tony left. He's coming on almost a year now. Yeah. He's been with us. When he finishes the Salt Marsh campaign, which will be in about probably about 6 to 8 weeks, maybe, somewhere in that realm, probably more towards 8. He's going to step down for personal reasons, as you kind of already know. We have a gentleman named Mike Neistel, who used to be a designer at TSR. Wow. He's done a lot of stuff, and he's brilliant. And he's going to be running the show for season 3. And I've already talked to him about guests, and I want to have you back as well. Hopefully Brax, but it could be anybody if you want.
Yeah. I mean, I'd love to come back as Brax. It was a lot of fun. The character was, and first time I had played on a stream as a monk, which was great because monks are brutal. Yeah. Like I said, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. And so to just speak to your point, right, which is that's a great opportunity, and I've been kind of like a producer behind the scenes, helping first Tony, and helping with Nathan, and then I'll be probably helping Mike plenty, and that allows me the leverage to kind of work in who's our next guest and kind of those types of bits,
right.
But yeah, so it's fun. I fully realize, as I'm sure you do, after having the show for 3 years, that there's a lot of things for people to do every day. Whether they're watching sports or watching movies or streaming something or on TikTok or whatever, and to try and get them to watch your show is not particularly easy. So I think that we do these things, a lot of it because of we enjoy it and because we want to share with the people that care. But I think you hit something earlier, that TikTok is somewhere that you can bring that stuff to. Clips, like you said, clips of your stuff, clips of this show. The digestible nuggets that you can put in there. And there's some other good examples. We can talk about this offline, but depending on what you want to do. But TikTok is great because it's not just dances, right? Like 5 years ago, was everyone's just doing the TikTok dances all the time.
Right. Yeah.
And that's why I had like zero interest in that. But now the D&D TikTok community is pretty big.
It's huge. In all honesty, it's TikTok and Twitch where I gain 90% of my guests. Is I'll either message them on TikTok or I'll message them on Twitch. I guess if I can't find them on Twitch, I'll go on to Instagram, but normally it's TikTok or Instagram, I guess, be the best 2 options. Real quick, we have one question that came in through the chat. What has been your most memorable part of running a TikTok channel?
I would say probably seeing the vision in my head come to fruition.
I can see that, yeah.
So as a video game producer, when I make games and I'm often designing them, I have a vision of what's going to look like at the end, and you kind of try and work it to that end point, which is not unlike being a dungeon master, right? Where you imagine what this adventure will be like, so you build all the pieces so that experience is more or less what you intended. So I was thinking, okay, we'll have cool varied backgrounds, we'll have my daughter and I cosplay, we'll go back and forth, and we'll have these snappy jokes that people will like. That was kind of like the vision.
Yeah.
And then once we finally got the full version out, which is only just like about a week ago, where we've had the art that my daughter, she drew that, by the way, so I think you know. But having that out there and getting the response, you know, one of them, the orc knock knock joke. Have you seen that one?
Mm-hmm.
So that one has I think 27,000 views and like 3,500 likes, and that's a ton for someone our size right now. And so that was, to answer that person's question, that was kind of like, good. Like that was what I was hoping would happen.
Yep.
And I want people to enjoy it. The work that my daughter put into it, and a videographer helping out, that they see, you know, the fruits of their labor. So yeah.
TikTok's one of those really strange ones right now that you can go from not having anything to having a ton in a very short period of time. That, and for some reason, and this is something that we're even finding out on Instagram right now, is funny works no matter what you do. It works great. We started Misfit Memes Monday, every Monday, and we have been climbing our likes and follows consistently every week. And it's literally like, find your funniest meme on D&D and throw it up there. And it's been crazy how fast it's growing.
You guys do that, or you have everybody do that? Is it you guys that
we do it? Yeah, we dropped out Misfit Monday. Now, if you want to be a part of Misfit Monday memes, you got to go on our Discord and throw it in the meme channel, and then we pick those memes and we toss them up on the channel.
Do you do animated ones as well?
We just do a picture, and it works wonders. I don't know how, but it works. I'm going to start, though, because every once in a while I'm going to peek over to your channel and go, okay, this one's really funny, and I'm going to throw it up, because that's what we do.
Feel free, by the way, like anything, because as I mentioned, 85% of the stuff is just recycled, repackaged dad jokes. You know, the example would be talk about my friend a wizard who's obsessed with fire and his fireball and scorching ray and all that, but he's looking for a soulmate, you know, and he found a match, right? So that in itself, it you know, it always face palms. That in itself is a joke about basically, you know, a pyromaniac who's looking for a date and they find a match, right?
Yep.
And so, but I just changed it. And so anything you ever want to take of mine, like take away, like enjoy.
Oh, yeah. Same.
And you know, it's really just about people having fun.
Yeah, no, 100%. And that is where we're going to end tonight with, on one note. If you like the show, and this is going to cost nothing, and it's more so of an excitement for me, is in a month, I'm going to be at Gen Con as the barkeeper. So if you want to be a guest, if you want to tell a story, we're going to be walking around with probably just my phone, but we're going to be interviewing people all through Gen Con when I have time and I'm not running games, where you can come up to the barkeeper and tell a story. So come find me. I'll be floating around all over the place. Yeah, no, I'm super excited. This will be my third year at Gen Con, running games every day once again. And see,
that's great.
See who I can meet. So, thank you everybody for coming. Oh my goodness, we've had such a wonderful channel today, and guests and friends. Hopefully you come hang out with us every week and find out the next story that's told and the next guests. We have some people on the lineup that are pretty big people on TikTok, so I'm currently working those numbers right now. Hopefully a week or two. They've had some other arrangements that we've got to work into, so I'm working on those. But if you know of a guest, or you are a guest and you're part of the TikTok or the TTRPG community, and you want to come tell your story, make sure you get a hold of us. We'd love to hear what tell you're going to tell. Of course, all of this can't be done without our wonderful tech, which I never give enough credit for. Eric, thank you once again for just always being here to help me out. He is our man behind the scenes, does all of my tech work for me during the show, and is just a amazing friend.
And he's talking about me, by the way, everybody. I do both behind the scenes tech and also he's not talking about me.
No, not this Eric, that other Eric. But he hides behind the scenes. He was originally one of our cast members, but has stepped behind the scenes to make sure everything else worked because he was doing both, and it was a very straining thing. Yeah, thank you once again for coming to the tavern. I'm going to close it down tonight. Come hang out with us every Wednesday and Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Tavern Talks, and hopefully soon D&D. But until then, we're playing Baldur's Gate 3, Diablo 4, Sea of Thieves, and we're talking nerdy. So until then, have a wonderful evening. Good night.
Everybody, thank you. Thank you.